Alright, today we're gonna do some butchering on some chickens, and we got some miscellaneous birds around. This one right here is Rhode Island Red. He's not really fully matured, but he's a rooster, and got too many roosters around. They tend to tear up the hens, and so we're gonna go ahead and butcher this guy. Don't expect a whole lot of meat off of this one right here, but gonna kind of go through the steps of how we do it. And Spencer, he's going to go ahead and put the chicken into the killing cone, and we're going to slice his neck and let him bleed out, and we'll go from there. Alright, so you reach up in here and you're going to pull his head out. It's got to be kind of gentle like. And I know I said be gentle, but we're not into torturing the animals, but we want to do a good job with them. And what I'm trying to do is I want to pull back some skin like right here, and then right in here on the side of the neck is where the main artery is. And just all we want to do is cut into that main artery and let them bleed out. And the whole idea is, we want that heart to keep pumping to get all that blood out. So, and this is how we do it, and it's worked out really good for us. All right, so we sliced the necks and bled them out, and one of the things I didn't explain thoroughly is why we use these killing cones. One nice thing about this is that it's a soft rubber, and what it does is it keeps the bird contained from flapping their wings, and if they start flapping their wings, they start breaking. They could break their bones easily. It happens. People they've cut off their heads, in the past to bleed them out, and where that may sound kind of fun in a weird way, but body parts get broken when that happens, like the wings and possibly legs, and that doesn't make for a good bird. So this is the best way that we've found, to help keep the birds contained, and we don't want them lurching around or anything like that, to try to keep the meat in good shape as possible. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull these birds out. And then we're going to bring them over to the dunk tank. Come on over here. I'll show you the thermometer we have in here. When we dunk chickens, we like to have the temperature at about between 150 and 160 degrees. And you can see I just have a normal thermometer that I just poked through a piece of blue board just to keep it floating on top, which is pretty handy. Problem is, if you get much over 160 degrees, it's going to scald the skin, and a thin layer of the skin will start actually coming off, and this doesn't make for a good presentation of the bird. And if you get much less than 150 degrees, the feathers won't come out very well. So we're about a nice sweet spot there where I like it. I'm going to take both birds, put them in, and you just kind of want to get them nice and saturated. You got to move it around like this. You got to remember that birds' feathers, they naturally propel water, and so you have to just kind of move it around, get it down to the skin. And then I like to do is just take a little test. And it's coming out pretty decent. I'm going to soak it just a little bit longer. Yeah, now the feathers are coming out really good. Alright, so now we're going to come over here. We're going to put them in our plucker. I'll show you a picture of this plucker here in a couple minutes. This sure does beat doing it by hand, that is for sure.
Amen.
That makes really quick work of that. And you know, there's always usually a couple feathers left on, but we can, you know, the majority of the work is taken care of. So actually did a pretty nice job. But you can see with these Rhode Island Reds, not much meat on these guys because they didn't have really a chance to develop. So, but you know what? I'll make some good soup or small meal. We've plucked the chickens with the plucker, and just kind of want to explain this right here. This is a contraption that I made about 2-3 years ago, and you know, this is it's not any one of my genius of how this thing works, but there's other versions of this thing out here, but concept is the same. Got an electric motor that spins a disc inside of the of this barrel, and there's a whole bunch of rubber fingers in here, and those rubber fingers wipe across the chicken's body, and it pulls all the feathers off. I'm just going to flick this on and off so you can see how it spins around. And as that spins around, it's tumbling the chicken around, and these fingers along the side here also help keep the bird down, and also continues to pull the feathers off the bird. So anybody that's ever hand plucked a chicken before, they could definitely appreciate the work that this machine does here. And this thing right here, you know, we just got some scrap stuff. You know, the barrel was free. The fingers, obviously, we had to purchase. A friend of mine had the electric motor, so probably cost of this whole thing may have cost like $200 to make. And it was a fun project to make. Got to do some welding, and so it was definitely worth the time, especially if you're gonna butcher chickens for the long term. So anyways, as the chicken is spinning around in there, the feathers, they come out here at the bottom here and shoots it right out and does a real nice job. All right. Okay, so now we got the chickens out of the plucker, and like you say, there's usually a couple some feathers that are left behind, and so you just want to come by and get these things all pulled off. And here we go.
I want to have the head off, yeah.
And then something that I like to do is try to make it, I don't know, I'll remove the head, which I got a great big hatchet, and usually I just do a big cut like that. I guess I should have a sharper knife. Remove the head. You can see this bulge right here. Now this chicken right here, typically before we butcher, we remove feed from the chickens so that first off, their intestines, you know, they have their intestines are emptied out. But this one's we just we forgot to do it, but you can see the crop right here. It's just totally full of food right here. This is not meat, but this is the grains stored in the crop, and from the crop it goes into the gizzard, and gizzard is what grinds up all this food right here. But this is something that we're definitely going to remove. But you can see how it's pouched out right here. All that's food right there. So we'll get that removed. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking the feed off.
You don't have to hold the button down, Colby.
It's really important to have a sharp knife to get through this. I usually remove the wing tips. You know, again, it's a personal choice. Not much meat on those wing tips, but you might want to leave it on if you're doing this, just to if you're making soups or something rather, it gives flavor. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna hose off the surface. You can see this is my hay wagon I got, and makes a perfect cutting board. The size, the height of it is perfect for me. This works out real nice. This right here is, this material is, it's like a plastic liner that came out of a deep freeze. And we ripped that out. And this makes a perfect cutting board. We sanitize it with soap before we start to butcher. And just a perfect big work surface. I've even butchered a deer on here. I was able to process it on this stuff right here, so it does a really good job. Anyway, so I'm going to start cutting into here. I'm going to get the crop removed and get the guts out. And so you can see the crop right here. All that stuff, and I'm not going to poke it open, but maybe when I pull it out, maybe we'll do that. So I'm going to try to loosen it up just a little bit so that I can pull it out easier. Stick my fingers in there. And one time we were butchering turkeys. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget it. And we were just hurrying up, really, trying to get everything butchered, and here we we left the crop in, and it was totally full of food. I was so embarrassed, and so we ended up getting back with our neighbor, and we got the bird back, and
Out of the freezer.
yeah, out of the freezer, and we got the bird back and got the crop out. So yeah, it was kind of lessons learned. So now what I'm going to do is, now I got the crop kind of loosened up, now we're going to start getting in here and get the intestines and goodies out. Again, you want to be kind of careful when you're making that slit. You don't want to cut into the intestines, because the intestines are all the way back here, especially with this guy right here. He's full of food, and so is his intestines, so my preference is not to have a bunch of crap coming out. Actually, you can see right here's a nice little layer of fat right there. That's good. Fat is flavor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the way around here, right around its butt, and come back around right here, and then you just pull everything out. So just kind of carve. Right around here. There's that nice fat layer. Okay, so we kind of got the butt. You can see how we got that all just kind of cut out there. So now I'm just going to reach in. And the bigger birds, it's a lot easier because their carcass is bigger and my hands can fit in there a lot nicer. Yep, you just want to pull the stuff out. There we go. There we go. So right here's all the good stuff. Right here's the gizzards. Now for us, we just don't eat gizzards, but this right here is where all the grain's at, and this is what grinds up the whatever the bird happens to eat, and gets, of course, digested through the intestines. Here's right here's the testicles. Actually, you can see those right there. And right here's a heart. A lot of people eat the heart. We don't in particular. So, but this is actually, they say this is really good. I've had them before, and my wife, she doesn't really care for cooking chicken hearts, so. All right. And this right here, it's a lung scraper. It's really nice because you can reach up inside of here and pull the lung out, and the lung is straight like that. It does a nice job because it just reaches inside there, and the lung is right up against the rib cage. It's kind of hard to get my fingers in here, but this right here is the chicken lung. Just scrape that all in our bucket. I'm going to go ahead and spray this off. Get it clean. and you get all the little nasty stuffs out. Alright, now we're going to go for the crop. And this is the crop, and I'll split this open, I'll show you. As you can see, right here's all the food that it's eaten.
Not too close, Colby.
Yep.
There we go.
So you can see he's been eating quite a bit. And again, that's, you might ask, why we're butchering these tiny little birds is, well, it's the beginning of December right now, and basically, these birds, they do produce some meat, but they're not really designed to be big meat producers. And basically what these guys are going to do, they're just going to be consuming feed, but not producing any eggs for us. So that's why we decided to butcher these, before things get really cold here. So, but again, there will be some meat that they'll be able to get. And here's the esophagus. Pull that out. And I like to get all these little nasty things out, and yeah, I definitely need a sharper knife. Maybe Santa will bring me something this year.
How boring. Dear Santa.
Yeah, all I want for Christmas is a sharp butcher knife. And actually, you know what? In all seriousness, not having a sharp knife, that's how you cut yourself. Because you're trying to cut through all that stuff. And I've always heard that dull knives are the ones that will really get you. Okay, so got the neck off, and now we're gonna just kind of dress a couple things off. Usually, people, right back here is an oil gland, and sometimes, people they'll make a cut right back here to cut that oil gland out, and so you make a cut here, and then a cut right here. But for us, we don't really like the tail, so what I typically do is I just cut the whole thing off, and just cut around like that, and get rid of the tail. I guess some people eat the tail, but it doesn't sound good to me, but hey, each your own, I guess. Anyway, so you can see we got our bird, and looks pretty good. And just gonna hose it off. And like you say, this is a small bird, but not too bad looking. Just a couple little pin feathers here and there, and but what we'll do is we get ready to bag it up. My wife, she'll go over it and pick all the little things off, and just to make a nice looking bird. But yeah, so that'll be a nice little bird for somebody.
So now that we've got our first rooster butchered, I come along after the boys do their part. I come along and I do quality control. I try to get some of these little feathers off the feet area, the joint area, and sometimes because these feathers, or because these Rhode Island Reds had darker feathers, they will tend to have these little dark pin feathers all over, and it's just kind of gross. Nobody really wants to eat a chicken and find black hair on it, so I always come along and try to get as many of these little hairs and feathers off as I can. Not to mention, I'd kind of like to go behind and get these little pieces of fat off. It's just kind of gross. Nobody really wants to see that on their chickens. Most of the time, you know, they're boiling their chickens maybe, and sometimes that fat will just rise to the top of the water. It's just kind of nasty. So that's kind of what I do. I sit over here and I wait for the chickens to come over. They get put in the cooler, they get rinsed off, washed off, and then by the time they come to me, I take care of the quality control. And then I get them bagged up at the end too. So when I'm ready to bag this bad boy up, I'll come back and I'll show you. I've got the torch, I guess you call it, out, trying to get rid of some of these little black pin feathers. Does a great job. Just burns them right off. It passes inspection. Time to bag it up. We get the 2-gallon bags from Gordon Food Service, jumbo reclosable freezer bags, and they work out really good. Most of the times we have chickens that are much bigger than this, so the 2-gallon bags work best. But in this case, these are the chickens that someone gave us. These are the Rhode Island Reds, and they are very small, so we really don't even need a 2-gallon bag, but that's what we have, so that's what we're going to go ahead and use. I generally like to make sure that the inside of them dried out well too. Make sure the chickens are very well dried off too. The drier they are, the lesser chance of ice crystals forming when you put the birds in the freezer. So make sure they're clean, make sure they're dry, try to get as much air out as possible. And there we go. Label, date, stick them in the freezer. Okay, I want to show you this hen. This is a hen we just finished butchering, and this is a rainbow breed. We bought a few of this breed just as a heritage bird that we wanted to let pasture and free range, and we were just gonna see how they turned out, if they were good for meat, if they turned out to be big birds for meat. And this chicken, I just have to show you, I've never seen that much fat on a chicken before. I just want to show you all of the layers of fat back here on this hen, and you can just see the layers of fat back here. Right here. Look at the fat here around the breast. This is incredible. Just strips of fat here. And the fat, you can just see the fat all over the breast area, pockets of fat everywhere. Some good size wings, good meaty wings. Anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. My husband was saying he has never seen a chicken that we've ever butchered in the years we've been butchering with this much fat. Fat is flavor. So this is going to be a delicious baked chicken with the skin on, and that fat's going to provide a lot of good flavoring. So these are the large roosters. That one's the size of a small turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much those weigh. They've got to be 8 pound, 7 or 8 pound chickens. Okay, so we're done with our butchering for the year. We had just 6 chickens we wanted to get butchered up. It's December 3rd, and that's the end of our butchering season. So we've got the 2 very small Rhode Island Red roosters that someone gave us. We told them we would get them butchered and give them back to them. And then that one there is the heritage breed Rainbow. That was a hen. Unfortunately, a hen that was not laying, so we went ahead and butchered her up. And then the remaining 3 here are the heritage breed Rainbow roosters, and we are really happy with the size of these. That one here is quite massive. I mean, it's the size really of a very small turkey. I'm guessing this is an 8-pound chicken probably. So that one I'm going to bake up whole. That'll be delicious whole, and well worth a meal for all of us. Again, this is also a super duper nice, look at the drumstick on that, super nice looking rooster dressed. They're all 3 of them dressed out beautifully. So that may be a breed we may raise again. I believe it's called Rainbow. Look at the meaty drumstick. Breast is not a super huge breast like the super roaster whites that you see everywhere, but those are just super engineered to have huge breasts. And so this is more like what our ancestors raised. These are heritage breeds, and this is what they would have raised back many decades ago, when chickens really looked like chickens, and they could walk and they could roam free. And we actually eat them on the bone with the skin, as opposed to nowadays people don't even know how to process a whole chicken, let alone bake a whole chicken. So it's high time to get back to basics when it comes to this kind of stuff. The flavor is to die for. Hear a lot of people say, oh, my boneless, skinless chicken is so dry. Well, guess why? Because you took off the skin, you took off the layer of fat, and you also took out all the bones. And there's so much flavor right next to the bone, the meat that's right next to the bone. It's just amazing. So they're basically taking all the flavor out of their chicken, and then they wonder why they have to slap it up with sauces and marinades, and you don't have to do that if you just raise the chicken the right way, and butcher it, process it the right way with the skin, with the bone. You know, it's very important to leave all those components in when you're cooking chicken. So we're really happy with the size of the 3 roosters. They will be great baked whole. So I would say that it was a good butchering day. We didn't get much done. It's December and it was cold out there. So my fingertips start getting cold after a while, and so do my toes. So this was about all we could get done today, and that's it. We're done for the season. I just wanted to give you a good tutorial on how we do our butchering out here on 5 on a Farm. Talk to you later.
So I caught this little guy just crossing the road, and I decided to grab him. I don't know what breed it is, but for time's sake we'll call it Biggest Chickenimus. So we're going to put him in a cannon and shoot him out the circus tent, and we're not actually going to do that. We're going to do it the humane way.
This chicken is tremendous, is huge. This is going to be the chicken that I pardoned at Thanksgiving. They said a turkey, I said no, I want a chicken. We're going to build a wall, it's going to be fantastic, be tremendous. We're going to build that wall, and yeah, that's basically it.